and also to, be here as an activator for the star seeds that have kind of forgotten their mission. Not most, but some are still, not familiarized with their purpose here. So one of my missions here is to activate the others like myself, so that we can work as the team and fulfill the prophecies that actually go into the beyond Atlantis. These prophecies have been echoed for millions of years throughout the Milky Way, and it has a lot to do with the restoration and the reestablishment of heaven on earth here on this planet.
So fascinating to me. I mean, like I said, I have so many questions for you. So you mentioned that when you came into this life, that you were telepathic and you did telekinesis and you were kind of playing with these things as a kid. Would you say you didn't have amnesia? Like, did you remember your past lives when you came here?
Not my past lives, but I knew that I was different from the beginning because my consciousness was wired differently than the rest than most humans. I came in fully aware of my abilities, and a lot of it has to do with also me being part of the secret program of super soldiers. A lot of my genetics were upgraded. In fact, I was developed in a petri dish for the most part, and then put in my mother's womb.
Really?
As a surrogate, yeah. So I'm a combination of different meta-terrestrial races put into, my body to serve within, the off-world programs that have working for the benevolent forces to fight this cosmic war against AI, and not only our universe, but in other universes. So from the beginning, I already had this DNA intact. I was, communicating with plants, communicating with animals, reading people's thoughts at the age of 4 and 5, and playing with telekinesis. So I was just, from the beginning, I was wired differently. However, I was forced to suppress my abilities because my grandmother was a strict Catholic and very religious. And one day she came into my room when I was teleporting little toys from one part of the room to the next, and she called the local priest, claiming that I had been demonized, that I had been possessed, and they threw holy water on me, and they were, trying to. They were asking me, like, identify yourself, demon. I was like, there is no demon in me. What are you guys talking about? So that kind of really just forced me to suppress my abilities, because at that point my grandmother saw me as this different thing. She thought I was the Damien's, whatever, she's too, what's the word that I'm looking for? Superstitious, And so, from that point on, I was forced to go to church, not just once a week. I was forced to go to church twice a week. I was forced to go to these rosary prayers for 2 hours. Imagine being a 5-year-old and being forced to kneel and pray the rosary 3 times a week because they thought that was going to help release whatever it is they thought was in me, because they didn't understand this stuff. So my upbringing was pretty rough, growing up in a very fundamentalist religious home. It wasn't until I was 20 when I discovered Kriya Kundalini Yoga after reading the autobiography of the yogi, which was an eye-opener for me, when I realized, hey, I'm just like him. I'm a mystic, And that's when I kind of re-snapped back into, or re-triggered myself back into, my youthful days. And that's when I kind of just started remembering and started meditating. And as a result of meditating, I was just connecting with my higher self, connecting with my star family, receiving massive downloads. So there is a distinction between channeling and downloads. Downloads are part of your monad. They're part of your ancestry. They're downloads from your angels, from your guides, your galactic family. Channeling could come from different entities that are not associated with your, surrounding sphere of positive influences. So we have to be careful, because some people do channel entities that are posing as the Ashtar, that are posing as these galactic commander federations, but they're actually promoting false light, and that is the difference. One of the ways that I tell people to distinguish the difference is by feeling it in your heart. If you feel that the information is not resonating in your heart, then it's coming from an imposter, perhaps a reptoid or a gray that is posing as one of the commanders. But when you do feel it in your heart, it's because it's coming from, positive entities.
And that's one of the things I find very fascinating about you. You speak with very divine authority on this topic. Like, you never say things like, well, it's based on my research, or this is what I think, and you take it or leave it. Instead, you speak with authority and resonance. Is that by design? Did you practice this?
No, not at all. I'm just, I came to the realization that when I am being interviewed and when I'm doing a lecture, I connect with my higher self and I just allow my higher self to just flow.
Mm.
And that explains why I speak so fast because it's my brain, my mind, the way it works is just going at like light speed. So I'm like trying to convert these concepts into human words so that I can express what I'm trying to say. So it
It's
just,
hard.
yeah, but it's my higher self that speaks through me. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. So you talk about telekinesis. It's kind of like that movie Phenomenon. Like, could you show us that? Is that like literally something that you can still do? Do you still practice it?
You know what? I do in private. I don't like to promote these
Yeah.
abilities until the time is right because again, I am part of the programs and I just don't want to, strike a wrong chord with anybody who is still monitoring me because I am being monitored. I'm being monitored by the Galactic Federation, by the higher forces beyond them, by the angels, and then of course, the different groups. I'm being monitored by the White Hats, the Alliance, and then of course the Cabal has known about me since I first published my book 14 years ago. But they knew that I was, you know, in my own category, so they knew they couldn't really do away with me, or they couldn't, try to stop me. But they tried to convert me a few times. There's been a few cases where agents of the Cabal were sent to me in an effort to try to convert me to the Luciferian side, and I said no. They were offering me, roles in Hollywood because I used to model when I was in my early 20s. I did it for for just to kind of bring in extra income, and they would come in and try to like convince me or seduce me. We would make you the next Brad Pitt. You'll be on People's Most Beautiful Man Alive. We'll do everything for you. And I just said no. I don't want. That's what celebrities do. They sell out to you guys,
Yeah.
and that's just not my mission. My mission is different. So they tried to convert me a couple of times when I was in my early 20s.
I've noticed that too. I know that a lot of starseeds have been approached by people that are practicing telepathy and maybe even remote viewing, but they're not using it for the light. And so are we all being tested in a way? Like, is this kind of like a spiritual boot camp?
Very much so. Yes. Yes. But when the time comes, we will rise as the next stage of human evolution. And scientists have already been predicting this for 30 years based on, sudden leaps in I guess what they call intelligently driven evolution. Nothing does happen by accident. Even, the genetic mutations that have been taking place for millions of years throughout the multiverse have been intelligently designed. So everything's driven by intelligence. There, the universe itself is a cosmic blueprint. It was all by design. There is no such things as accidents.
Really? So I'm curious about, you mentioned that that you were made in a petri dish, or that they were kind of organizing. Is it possible for a soul to be fragmented and then be carried out into multiple individuals or people in this incarnation? In other words, I've heard people say things like, in this end times, in the Mary Magdalene, soul has been fragmented and is alive and well in many, or encoded in many people throughout the world. Is that possible? Or
Those are people that have served within the Solar Warden programs, but I served within a very elite branch known as the Radiant Guardians, where my consciousness wasn't fragmentalized. They can't clone me. I'm one of, I guess, what they call, type of breed that cannot be clonable because of what I am and who I am.
interesting. Okay.
But however, I do have 97 or 96% of my consciousness that is operating with different avatars in the higher dimensions. And I'm still very active there, So I'm still part of the Galactic Wars. I'm still fighting in the astral. Well, not anymore. We just cleared the astral within the last few months. But, throughout my whole life, I've been actively participating in these other dimensions.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that. Okay, so you mentioned avatars in the higher dimensions. I mean, I think everyone's just doing our best to understand these things. So bear with me. Everyone learns different. I tend to have visualizations. And, probably about 2013 is when I started to become activated. And I started realizing that, first of all, I needed to self-heal. And so I went inward versus where you went sort of outward. You went into the macro. I went into the micro, if you will. And we do have universes within us, the chakra systems, etc. So I always use my body as a cipher, you know what I mean? Like, if you will, but I also use my visualizations. So when I'm trying to understand third, fourth, fifth dimension and what that is to embody those, right? For me, I was having visualizations. So from 2013 on, it started out just setting my inner child free, watching her evolve into sort of this beautiful golden angel. and then watching that evolve into a light body. And I kind of assumed those were the three, you know what I mean? Like one was 3D, one was, because I can see my human form too. And I mean, she's not nearly as patient as my angelic form, who's like the all knowing. And then, the light being can sort of give out all this light and heal people and actually implant light within or offer it to others. So is that what we're talking about with 3, 4, 5D, or are we talking about something entirely different? Are there actual earth suits or avatars that we are living in the same time-space continuum?
Yes, it's both. We are living in the same time-space continuum, but operating on different frequencies. See, what separates the different levels of reality is vibration. The simulation exists actually all the way up to the 12th dimension. Beyond the 12th dimension is what scientists call base reality, which is the eternal spheres. And that's how, one of the things that I introduced in my book is that there are overall 3 major planes of reality, and all the densities, all the dimensions fall within those 3 levels of reality. We have the eternal spheres that have always existed, known as the spiritual realms, which is equivalent to what I call in my book the mother universe, without beginning or end. And this is also proven through quantum physics, superstring theory, and theory, and all the new evidence that is coming from the quantum field that there is a realm of eternity, except scientists call it the metaverse. I call it nothing to do with Zuckerman's metaverse, but they call it the always existing realms, right? No beginning or end. And then there's the etheric realms, which equates to the mental plane of reality, where the eternal realms begin to, by the lowering of frequencies through a process I call involution, which is from the top down, descending of spirit into matter. Then we have the existence of the etheric spheres, which are semi-eternal. And then from the etheric spheres, or which is what we call the mental plane of reality, then precipitates matter, and the material spheres are what we call in the esoteric tradition, the world of manifestation. And the world of manifestation is actually held together by geometry and vibrations and sounds and frequencies. So that's how the simulation works. It's all being projected from the mind of the mental plane of reality.
So do we kind of, through our soul body, create our avatar? Like, is our avatar sort of a reflection of the soul itself?
Absolutely. And that is the reason why when the fallen angels translated into the material plane of reality, which I describe in detail in my book, they inherited these grotesque, awful physical forms, which became like, denoids, reptoids, and just creatures, what we consider monsters, demonic, right? However, when the angelics are those that remained loyal to the one, because that's what distinguishes the positive ETs from the negative ETs. The positive ETs all follow and are associated with the law of one, unity consciousness, everything's alive, everything's sacred. Those that disassociate from the law of one are part of the separative type of consciousness, where they see things as, everything's separated, therefore it's all about me. So that's when, the ego comes in, which is the first deadly sin. And that's what distinguishes these 2 categories. So the light beings that served and continued to honor the light became the most beautiful physical angels. And that's how the angelic kingdom came into existence, or what we call the Adam Katmon. In terms of physicality, the Adama, our origin,
That's so interesting. Okay, so a lot of people are aware by now that this is the end time prophecy as it's stated in Revelation. And obviously you've gotten into the bloodlines. I've been super fascinated with this. And it's just incredible to see how Trump and the Patriots and the White Hats have just dominated in the stars ever since 2013. But I'm curious, a lot of people are expecting a second coming. And it says in the Bible that he would come in the clouds and that he would come in the stars, the morning star, which actually in the Bible interprets as Jupiter. But is he actually, do you believe he's going to be coming, or, in some fashion or some form back? Do you think we'll see Christ come back?
Well, the esoteric or metaphorical meaning of the second coming, which, again, what we read about in today's scriptures, not just the Bible, the Quran, and other scriptures, is a edited version of the original text. The original texts say that at the end of the cycle, which is now right at the beginning of the 21st century, that a new set of gods and goddesses would emerge. So the second coming of the Christ with the angels is really the activation of the Christ mind in all of us, all the light warriors, all the starseeds, all the celestials that are down here in human form. So that is the true metaphorical meaning of second coming. It is the activation of the Christ mind within all of us. So in a sense, it's like, the starseeds are the second coming. And that's been prophesied about. They're called the elect, the 144,000 that were sealed with the seal of the Lamb. And the Lamb represents the Christ mind. See, the Christ mind is what is known as Christ, is unity consciousness. It is a mind that civilizations beyond the 5th dimension and up are already living in. So that's what explains the different kingdoms of light that exist on these different levels of reality. So that's what the Christ mind is, but it's also technically the mind of the Logos. And what is the Logos? The mind of the universe, right?
Mhm.
So Christ was a perfect example of demonstrating unity consciousness. And so that's what the second coming of the Christ is. It's the meaning, I'm sorry, of the second coming of the Christ, is the awakening of the Christ mind within us. And that's what's happening.
I love that. I know a lot of my followers really resonate with that. And I feel like if I were to look back on, because I've started to become aware of other timelines as well that maybe I'm living on and other versions myself, but there's no other version I'd rather live in right now. I mean, we're all about to be set free in a way we've never even seen in this earth plane, right? I mean, this is such a time to cherish.
Yes, the Galactics are actually calling it the Great Cosmic Reunion. And upon the ascension, it's going to be a jubilee, that is going to be celebrated across the cosmos as this Earth now becomes the new hub of the multiverse, the new headquarters, kingdom of light. Yeah.
That is so crazy. All right, so let's talk about the future. They say that, the seven mountains of influence will crumble and a new kingdom of heaven on earth will arise. And so what does the future look like? I mean, what do you think it looks like here on this plane?
Very, very heavenly, very beautiful. The future is, for those that are taking a positive timeline, it's just going to be full of abundance, full of joy, peace, harmony, love. It's going to really be a time to excel and cultivate our talents where we only just focus on spiritual evolution, where all the physical needs are just going to be provided for us. At that point, we're not going to need to work from 9 to 5. We're not going to need to worry about paying our rent or our bills. It's going to be such a better reality. And as we continue to progress in higher levels or higher dimensions, things just continue to get better.
Is everyone telepathic in the future? I mean,
yes.
What does that do to our privacy and our spiritual boundaries,
Oh, we're still going to have the opportunity or the ability to have our privacy. We're only going to be telepathic when we turn on our telepathy. It's going to be kind of like your phone. You keep your phone on, you're going to get a call, right? You're going to get a text. But once you turn your phone off, you're not going to get that call. So it's going to be similar. We're going to have the ability to turn on our telepathy so that we could just communicate with others telepathically. So yeah, there's still privacy. Privacy exists all the way up to, the 6 dimensions. When we reach the 6 dimensions, then we become more of a social memory complex. At that point, we fuse our minds into a unimind. And while maintaining our individual consciousness, by the way, but as we go higher in dimensions, we actually just reverse the process of the one fragment, dividing itself into the many. And that's what the ascension is. The opposite of ascension is descension, which is what I call in my book the involution of spirit descending into matter, which gives the idea of separation. But as we continue, or as we reverse that process, then everything comes back together as one. And that is even greater than any pleasure, any joy. As we continue to become one with our Creator, we reach levels of joy and happiness and bliss that we can't even fathom at this time. We can't even fathom.
I love that. So with telepathy, obviously some of us have started to practice this. And I've had people come to me telepathically, but I don't know that I'm speaking to the right person. Do you know what I mean? They can come and say, oh, I'm so-and-so, right? So is it supposed to be a two-way connection? As in I need to, tune into the frequency of whoever it is that I wanted to have the conversation with, connect with them, and they do the same so as to ensure you're actually speaking to who you think you were speaking to?
Yes. If you're going to practice telepathy, visualize the person that you're actually sending the message to, and also see yourself as them receiving the message, because technically we're all one, just different avatars, and that explains non-locality. Our mind and everyone else's mind is connected through an invincible etheric mind hive, by the way. So that's how telepathy works. But make sure that you visualize the person that you're trying to reach, and also if you're receiving telepathic messages, see what image first pops up in your head. If it's their image, then it's coming from them. It's also an image that we get that tells us who is sending us the message.
Kind of like an encryption code.
Pretty much.
Oh, interesting. So, you mentioned that in the future, twin flames might reunite, because twin flames, I assume, have similar frequencies at every chakra point, and they probably also have a similar mission, that they're here on a similar mission. I would think that when twin flames start uniting, that takes us to yet a whole nother level, because there's this inherent, I guess maybe intuitive activation that would happen there. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes. Yes, because the whole meaning of the twin flames merging back together as one is also at the highest level of reality. It is the cosmic mind of the Christ merging with the mother goddess mind of Sophia coming together as one again. Because right now, through the involutionary or descent process, they separated. So we have been undergoing this healing in order to bring that back into balance, which is the ultimate, cosmic marriage, is bringing back Sophia and the Christ as one.
Yeah, it's really sad to see in this matrix just how divided the male and female have become. And, everything is designed to sort of separate. And that's sad, because I do seek beauty everywhere I go and in everyone that I meet. And I just want everyone to love themselves and, to the core, because that's the only way to live. There's really no other point in being here and having this experience if you don't love what you're doing and love yourself, but I just feel like it would be so great to see that shift, because I feel like the matrix, and my daughter's 12, so I've created mantras in my own house. I love my body, I love my food, I love my life. I say it to her all the time so that it resonates, because we can program each other. I think we forget that. We forget that, yes, the matrix is an illusion. It's constantly bombarding us with thoughts, but we can create our own thoughts at all times, even among our families.
Absolutely. And another thing I want to point out is that all the starseeds down here on the earth represents the unity of Christ and Sophia. So in other words, all the females are the embodiment of Sophia. They've all been Isis, because these are archetypes now. They've all been Athena. They've all been Aphrodite. And same with the males and all of the male avatars. So it's like we're now bringing it together. And that's
so Isis and Osiris are actually good. I mean, there's been so many stories. It's hard to know what's up and down anymore.
They actually, yes, they represent the kingdom of light that stems from the upper region of Orion. So they were very instrumental in aligning people back to the teachings of the One as well, the laws of One and unity consciousness. But, they've been thrown under the bus because they were Egyptian. But the real enemy in Egypt came with Osiris's half-brother Set, who was actually the Babylonian god Marduk, sorry. Marduk was the evil Egyptian god that took over the original golden age of Egypt and kind of corrupted it. And so he twisted all the records around. But Isis represents, the Egyptian version of Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, and so on and so forth. Just as how Athena represents, and Venus represents, the Greco-Roman version of the seed of the divine female mother goddess.
Okay, so let's talk about Orion. Okay. So you mentioned there's this, I don't remember what you called it, Order of Orion or something, and they were evil. But in the Bible...
The Orion Empire, yeah.
The Orion Empire?
Yes.
Okay. In the Bible, it speaks of Orion as actually being the Redeemer, the coming Redeemer. And can you help us understand
Sure.
that?
Okay, so in the initial stage of our galaxy, the lower belt of Orion was inhabited by the Draco. That's where the Draco first came into being, in Alpha Draconis, Sigma Draconis, right next to the Regal system. From there, they kind of tried to expand an empire, and they did, for a while, until they were, met face to face with the Galactic Federation from Lyra. And so that's where originally, since evil first took root in our galaxy, the forces of light have been very instrumental in redeeming that region. Because for millions of years, the region of Orion has been a hotspot of galactic wars. I mean, that's how they get the version of Star Wars. When we watch movies like Star Wars, it's actually talking about the Orion Wars. It is a war that took place between the upper system of Orion, which were representing by, the lineage of Michael. And that's why, the Jedis always had the blue, right? The blue, because the blue ray represents Michael, which comes from Sirius, by the way. And then you had the lower part of Orion represented by the red, right? Animosity, the Sith Lords. And so that's how George Lucas was able to write Star Wars. He took from, the concept of Orion, and he just created his own version of those wars. Oh. But the reason why prophecies in the Bible have said that the Redeemer is coming from Orion is because Orion was the last region to be restored in our galaxy. And so that just recently happened within the last few years. And so that explains why, some believe that the New Jerusalem is actually hailing from Orion. And there is a mothership called the New Jerusalem. And that New Jerusalem is inhabited by all these positive beings that redeemed Orion and are now here to bring forth, or assist us in the restoration of our planet. But yeah, Orion was always a huge, huge Battlestar Galactica for millions of years until recently.
Wow, because we know that there are recreations of Orion, at least the star formations all over this Earth plane. You've got it at even Building 1, Building 2. Even in Tower 1, Tower 2, Building 7 in New York, as well as in the pyramids of Giza and in the St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome. And obviously they were doing very nefarious things underground in St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome. But there was always a river right next to the Orion. And it was representing Eridanus in the stars, which is the constellation that I would call the Sea of Souls. Were they keeping us trapped here somehow and reincarnation looped through trauma and control systems?
Yes, they've been doing that for thousands of years, but that system or that program has been dismantled now.
Because I don't know if people realize, but there's a dagger. Like Orion has a dagger on his belt. If you look at the picture, and JFK Jr. on his right arm has a dagger tattoo with a Z at the end, meaning the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, the one who is, who was, who always will be. I find that very interesting that we're seeing the Z, or the finisher, the ending, all over the tanks in Ukraine, and we're seeing this even in the relief packages. The Z is showing up everywhere right now. How fascinating is that?
Very, where things are about to be restored.
Do you think he knew anything about the story of Orion and the finish of this war?
Absolutely. The Kennedys actually had access to time travel, and that's one of the greatest secrets, which in essence, served the White Hats, and that's why they were able to secure the most positive timeline. In other words, they used time travel to checkmate the Cabal on every probable timeline so that the ascension could take place. The liberation of the Earth, the fall of the Cabal, all that's happening because of this time travel technology that fell in the hands of the White Hats back in the 50s. Thank God that the Federation has been working with them, because they inherit all this advanced technology by the Federation. See, the Federation they have to honor their prime directive. They can't intervene, but they could help from behind the scenes and give the technology to those that are working against the evil, right, that they're fighting, because the evil that they're fighting here is the same evil that they've been fighting in our galaxy for millions of years. It's just that now that conflict has now come to an end in favor of the light, which is victory for us.
Right. So can everyone time travel in the future? And doesn't that kind of mess things up a little bit? Like, can't someone just go get a hold of an almanac and go? You know what I mean? Like, how do we stop that from getting in the wrong hands?
Well, there's two concepts of time travel. You can time travel in your mind, like remote viewing, where you're not affecting the past or the present, because every time. When people do physically time travel, it seems like they always alternate the timeline, and that's been a huge issue. And so there's two types of time travel. In the future, yes, we're going to be able to time travel, but only through our consciousness, not physically. That type of ability is going to be restricted, of course, because we've worked so hard to secure the positive timeline. So why are we going to allow that technology to be given to those that are very immature and are not Christ-like, that might use it to reverse the timeline? Right. We don't want to repeat this war again. It took millions of years for us to restore the Milky Way galaxy, and so there's going to be a restriction on the physical aspect of time travel. But as far as becoming multidimensional beings, we will be able to time travel with our mind, but just to kind of project our consciousness into the future and then back to the past at will when we want.
Yeah, I found that you can time travel even to times maybe you're not living in now, to just change or alchemize some of the trauma it may have caused and or remember it differently so as to help yourself in the future. Have you used that as a technique as well?
Actually, I have. Yes, I have. I visited future versions of myself. That's how I was able to retrieve information regarding the final battle after the millennium. And, that's prophesied about in the Bible, right? For 1,000 years, for, the beast, which is AI, will be sealed or at least suppressed. It's not going to be an issue, but after the end of the millennium, there's going to be one final clash against the beast. So I was able to actually project my mind to see the outcome of that, and we in the future, we're like super powerful. We're like beyond X-Men, so we do win that war.
That's crazy. Do you have an idea of what your superpowers are going to be?
It all depends on how much level of genetic material and capacity I use. At 30%, we're able to teleport, read minds, project our consciousness anywhere we want. At 50%, we're able to manipulate time and matter, pause everything where everyone's just frozen. An example of that is the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson. The more we go up in increments, I mean, once we reach 100%, we're like all powerful. We become like Prime Creator Source, So that's the beauty of having these bodies, is that these bodies are a gift to us. These are the most advanced biological quantum living computers that have ever been developed in the multiverse, and we have them. That's why when people say, we're going to die and, we're going to go back to our pod where we're sleeping in stasis and reunite with our original galactic body, that's false theory. We're multidimensional. What's happening is an integration, a collapsing of multi-dimensions as we ascend. So we're going to just integrate those avatars, those different versions of ourselves with this version. And that's how we're going to become spiritualized or immortal.
That's something I've been saying a lot too. We're being offered eternal life. What does that mean to you? Does that mean we have a choice?
We already need the choice to have eternal life. And that's why we're here in these avatars, these beautiful bodies that, once we start using more than 10%, we're not going to die anymore. We have the immortal gene active or inactive within our dormant DNA.
Oh my gosh. I'm seriously so overwhelmed right now. I have so many questions and I know our time is running out. So maybe we'll have to plan a part 2. But okay, so let's talk about angels and demons. Mm-hmm. There was this scene in the movie Constantine where, the main feminine character says, well, it's people that turn on people. I don't believe in the devil. And Keanu Reeves, looks straight at her and he says, well, he believes in you. And at the end of the day, he's very aware of what we're doing, and they know how to summon demons, but yet we've never been taught how to command our angels. And I kept asking, how come we're not commanding our angels, and why would we even command angels? Aren't they above us? Do you know what I mean? And then it's because it's a free will realm. Do you have thoughts or feedback on that kind of concept?
Well, angels and demons are really just positive, benevolent extraterrestrials and fallen regressive extraterrestrials. So we could say that the demons are the Draco. The biblical demons are describing the Draco. The biblical angels are the Pleiadians, the Lyrans, the Arcturians, the Andromedans. So yes, it is. We should be invoking, our star family for assistance, because one of the reasons why they haven't yet established first contact is because not enough of us are reaching out to them. But, we're living in a time where many people are actually connecting to their star family, which is amazing. So
people should expand their thinking, and they should learn to command and or request assistance.
Absolutely. And, it's part of our birthright. I don't mean to sound, like we're like God's masterpiece, but in a sense we are. So that's the reason why they were there to serve us. So the angels are actually waiting for us to command them. They're here to serve us, because they know that we're God's ultimate masterpiece.
Wow. I mean, that's really powerful. I need to do more of that. I think we all need to do more of that. Would that speed up the timeline?
Absolutely. If everybody started, going within and starting to, request help from the angels, the angels will respond like this. It was something my buddy told me a few years ago. He says, there's a huge unemployment line in heaven. And I said, why? He says, because not enough people are invoking the help and the assistance of the angels. I'm like, oh God, they're unemployed. Yeah, so they're waiting for us to invoke them.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So
they work with the angels in the Galactic Federation.
So interesting. So the concept of precogs in the movie Minority Report, it's funny how movies are real and, you know, we're living in this reality that's totally fake. But, you know, so in the movies, these precogs can lay together, put their heads together, and they can see the future and they can see crimes before they happen. I've been told there are military operations where, you know, 6 or 7 intuitives can come together and they can help and assist, you know, in military operations where people maybe are going underground and they need the safety and the protection of the precogs. Is that true?
Yes, that's been part of the secret space program. Yes, at the highest level, you know, the shadow government, CIA, has been very involved in developing these precogs, remote viewers, all that stuff. All that stuff is real, you know.
I love it.
And they use these movies to dispose it. You know, a lot of the stuff that we see in these movies is actually reality. Unfortunately, you know, to the mind of the unawakened, they see it as sci-fi. But to the mind of the awakening, you know, they see the message, you know, they see what's really going on.
Yeah, you know, I was gonna say I've talked on my channel about my visualizations, and I've talked about, you know, we've done a few different projects like Bonds for the Win, and I didn't know how my audience would respond to this, but I'm thinking about it this morning. I'm thinking, you know, we have been so prepared for galactic alignment. It's like it's been in every movie. There's been, you know, Close Encounters of, I don't know what we're on now, 6 kind. You know, there's been so many disclosures by now. Do you think that people are ready?
Yes, I think so. I mean, 10 years ago, no. 5 years ago, maybe. Now, due to the, you know, the increase in the acceleration of the conscious, the collective consciousness, yes, I think people are ready now to understand that we are not alone in the universe, that the universe, the multiverse rather, is teaming up with life, and that, you know, we are part of a greater galactic and intergalactic and ultimately part of a cosmic society.
Okay, so let's talk about the ascension. So once we reach the 5D, for those that don't want to ascend, can we go back and see them? Do they have any memory of us? I mean, what happens to those that maybe didn't come here on a contract to ascend up to the 5D? Are we totally disconnected at that point?
Not necessarily. For the majority of the humans, which are non-starseeds, what I call in my book the newbies or the Earth Terrans, they're at least going into the 4th dimension as a collective.
Will they be aware of us?
Oh, absolutely. They're going to have memories of us. We're going to have our memories intact as to what we were when we came into these mortal bodies. And we're going to be able to, through the lowering of our frequency, come back into the 4th dimension and interact with them as well. But they're going to see us more as angelic. You know, that's why intelligences from the higher dimensions have always appeared as angels. But in that level of reality, they are as physical as me and you.
That's so, okay. So it seems like we're having a big test. Like it just feels like a test after test after test. Like I said, spiritual boot camp. Do you think there is a judgment? You know, is there a throne of Christ? Is there a point in time where us as starseeds are judged if we don't take our rightful position?
Well, because of the fact that we are the Christ, the higher self, our higher self is the Christ within all of us, we become our ultimate judge in the end.
Really?
Yeah, there is nothing external of ourselves that is going to like sit there on a throne and judge us. No. We're constantly being judged by our higher self. Not judged in a bad way, but in a way where it's like, you know, the universe is constantly sending people, circumstances to kind of get you back into alignment. But that's your higher self's version of bringing you back into, you know, your mission and your purpose. So as far as like this external judgment, no, that's all fear-based. That's all, you know, part of organized religion, and that's all coming to an end. So ultimately, we are our own judges. Yeah.
I always wondered about why are we so hard on ourselves? Why are we so, you know, self-aware? You know, in fact, I was learning about a research study that they did and asking people on their deathbed, you know, what would you have done different? And they said, I would have loved myself more. I would have accepted myself. I would have judged myself less. You know, maybe I would have enjoyed who I was and found the joy in the experience a bit more, right? Do you agree with that statement? And it's definitely kind of a moment in time where you're going through the biggest transition that we know of, right? And so a lot of people carry a lot of fear of death. But when you come to that day or that moment, you kind of ask yourself, did I do it right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So right now, there's a lot of people that are getting caught, for things like, voter fraud and trafficking children and stuff like that. Who's handling the judgment of this? I mean, are these just all military tribunals? I mean,
Yes, well, what's happening here is a small reflection of what's happening on in the cosmos. It turns out that in many galaxies, there are intergalactic tribunals taking place right now. We're not only dealing with the Draco, we're dealing with other negatives, regressives that have been working for the AI God that have plagued other galaxies and stuff. So as I speak right now, there are intergalactic tribunals that are taking place, as well as in our galaxy. Our galaxy is going through a intergalactic tribunal. Many Greys and Dracos are actually being, they're going to be getting what's coming. And that's also now reflecting here in our world. So it's all happening at the same time, but on different dimensions.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like so much work. I mean, I know that we only see maybe the very tip of the iceberg of what's really going on behind the scenes, and that is just even more reason for us to feel grateful at this time. So if you can tell the white hats, thank you.
Well, they know, they know we're grateful for them. I'm sure they see a lot of these, interviews and they know that we're cheering for them and, that we're here spreading their message of hope and peace and love and don't worry about anything. Everything's under control. Nothing's going to stop what's coming because overall, God is in control. And
and the Akashic record or the divine scroll of destiny. We each have one, right?
Absolutely.
How much can we modify that based on our intention or our manifestation? Is it fixed in stone?
From the highest levels of reality, yes. And all your choices that you're making here in these lower dimensions is aligning to your higher self. So we are influencing that every day by the choices we make and by the thoughts and emotions that we have. So just be mindful of that. I would suggest that at this point, just visualize what your version of heaven on earth is, as well as the collective version of a heaven on earth is. Because if we could all come to that mindfulness all at the same time, it's going to shift reality. It's going to, because it is through our mind and our emotions that we actually affect reality, because it's connecting to the quantum field, right? The quantum realm. Our thoughts are very connected to the quantum realm. In fact, one of the reasons to affect reality is by being mindful, because when we're mindful, we're actually almost as if we are in the quantum realm, fabricating reality. That's what happens when we are in the mindful, in the presence.
Yeah.
That's the best way to affect reality.
Yeah.
And what I could also do is give you the links to my book and, my Instagram, just to make it easier for people if they want to follow me. And then, of course, my Starseed Cosmology course.
Yeah, we'll totally, we'll drop those in the comments below or the description below. Awesome. Thank you so much. Literally, I could pick your brain all day, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But thank you so much for coming today, Ismael.
You're welcome. May I call you Michelle?
Yes.
You're welcome, Michelle. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.